Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, welcome to TimeToPlay.com's Empower Half Hour. My name is Doreen Guma, and I am the founder of the Time to Play Foundation, which is a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation with the mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness, outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. And with us doing this Business Success podcast, the goal is, it's kind of interesting. We know that most businesses fail within the first 3 years of being in business. And this is something that we continue to let occur, unfortunately. And I have said to a couple of different colleagues, and we are part of the Long Island Strategic Alliance Coalition, to say, hey, you know, this is always what we do in a reactive nature, and if we know that businesses fail within the first 3 years of being in business, wouldn't it be a wise thing to be proactive and do this Business Success podcast? So, hi, everybody. Who's online with us today?
Hi, Doreen. Thanks for giving the overview for Time to Play. This is Jerry Siegel,
hey,
hosting
Jerry,
the call
thank you.
today.
This is John
Thank you
Hill,
so much.
Long Island Investment for Small Business. I'm here.
I have Jim McGowan from Adelphi University.
Thank you, John and Jim.
Hey, Gina. So go ahead, Jerry, take over.
Okay.
I may have
discussion.
to mute in and out. Unfortunately, my dog may be barking in the background. I apologize.
It's all good.
Okay.
We love dogs.
We will certainly get past that challenge. Today's discussion is on self-management, and we want to talk about the fact that in order to be successful in business, you need to be able to manage your time and prioritize your tasks. However, time management is really an oxymoron because time cannot be managed. What you need to do is you need to learn to manage yourself in order to use your time most effectively. And certainly as an entrepreneur, time is precious because you have many things that need to be done, and frequently, most likely, initially, you will not have the resources necessary other than yourself and possibly a partner or a support person to handle all those things. So therefore, what you do and how you do it becomes even more important. As we indicated, you can discipline yourself. You can get or hire somebody else who will do the things that you cannot do. You can obtain support to manage part of the business. You can use a business coach as an example. You could use an outside resource that would require only part-time assistance, such as a chief financial officer from the outside. You could use sales people from the outside, or you could use them internally. Now, what we're talking about here is how you can be proactive to do these things and to accomplish what you need to do in the little time that you have. So we're talking about many skills that are necessary to succeed in business. We're covering communication, delegation, goal setting, leadership, management, motivation, people skills, supervision, as well as time management. And as I said, you might consider outsourcing the areas in which you don't have expertise or knowledge. But you must be prepared to work an extreme number of hours per week, certainly until your organization is able to generate enough revenue that you can start to hire some people internally and you can start to use others and knowledge that others possess as opposed to your own. So with that said, let me throw it open to those that are on the line and let's talk about the self-management that is necessary. Jim, John, any thoughts that you want to add at this point?
I think one thing I'd like to start with is before you start talking about how to manage your time and how to get the most out of your day, I always find it really critical to have yourself do a self-behavior analysis. You have to find out what is the problem. And for example, it can be pretty diversified. For example, do you not have enough time to do everything? That's one particular issue. Or maybe you're always doing things too late. That could be another phenomenon. Or maybe you start identifying certain times of the day when you are least productive or most productive. Or are you possibly unable to plan or organize your tasks? And then another one is, what do you spend most of your time doing? So these are like questions that you need to ask yourself to identify the problem. You can't just say, I just don't need to get anything done. That's not good enough. What exactly are you doing behaviorally in the course of your day? What do you find yourself doing? Is it backing up so that you do more in the last 2 hours of the day than you do the first 6 or 7 hours before that? Is that your pattern? So I think before we start discussing, how we can come up with some creative solutions to managing our day and our time and our business, you need to do that analysis, that self-behavior analysis, to find out what you're doing wrong and let me backtrack there. It shouldn't be what you're doing wrong. What are you doing? What are you doing, and why is that not productive?
Well, certainly, Jim, you make some extremely good points there, and I think that it all starts with what needs to be done, which is goals. What goals do you have for the day? What do you intend to accomplish? What do you need to accomplish? You need to have those goals written. You need to have those goals prioritized, and then you need to discipline yourself to work on first things first, because certainly, as you're suggesting, the idea of looking at oneself and determining what one's strengths are, that's the area on which you want to build. And
I think once you start seeing the behavior, you can start tracking down what some potential causes are. So, for example, if you don't, if you're always doing things very late, if that seems to be your pattern of behavior, or you procrastinate and everything's getting done right at the deadline, what is it about the project that you're trying to get done? Maybe it's something you really don't want to do, or maybe it's something that it's not so much that you don't want to do, but you don't think you have enough support, or maybe you don't have enough self-confidence, and that's why you're doing it at the last minute. If your pattern of behavior is that you seem to be getting all your work done in the last 2 or 3 hours of the day, or maybe even the last hour of the day, then why is that? Not just observing what you're doing, but then trying to find out why. Why am I so pressed for time at the end of the day? Well, you might have to look at the first 2 or 3 hours of your day. Maybe you're wasting your time. You think you're busy, but you're doing activities between 9 and 12 in the morning that really shouldn't be done. And it should be, maybe you need to devote another time of the day to do that. So that, again, the analysis is critical.
Let me jump in here, because I'm listening to two old pros talk about what needs to be done, and they do it automatically without even thinking about it. I know both of you guys very well, and I know I've seen you in action more than once. That's one thing. But if you want to talk about the reality on Long Island, you got a lot of people that went in business for the first time. Okay, they were good technicians, but they're not business people. And the problem is, they don't know. If you told them everything that you said, Jim, told them right now, you overwhelm them. They go into panic mode instantly. I've seen it happen time and time again. Okay, what needs to be done is to give them one step at a time. Jerry, with the program you teach, you go one step at a time. You cannot throw all that stuff out. Now, granted, we're in a 30-second cycle, a 30-minute cycle here, and you have to explain all these things. But I think if somebody new was entering to this, other than the pros that are on the network right now, they'd hang up because they'd be scared to death of what you're telling them.
Well, John, I think you make...
doesn't have to be so intimidating.
We can break it down even further, John, if you feel that that needs to be done, and that's something that we can do. So let's start from there. What is the most important thing then John, that you believe that we need to focus on as business people, new business people, in order not to freak anybody out?
Plan your day. Plan your day. One day at a time. Plan your day.
I think that
planning and goal setting are the two single most important aspects for anybody who is trying to accomplish anything. And that's where the first time needs to be spent, but of course that time doesn't need to be during the business day. That time can be in the morning before the business day begins, or in the evening before the following business day.
Any salesman right now, when we're all salespeople, any salesman right now plans his day at night. When he's finished for the day, he's finished all his paperwork, and he plans his day for the following day. I have a pad and pencil by my bed. I've had it there for 30 years. I don't know any other way to work myself personally. And you pick that up and you get something. I've woken up at 2 o'clock in the morning and wrote something down. I know it. And a lot of people do the same thing. They laugh at me, but that's a fact. Okay, and I think a lot of these people today, they're so nervous just trying to keep it together. They're desperate to get some ideas and suggestions of what they need to do to be more organized and more structured, so they can go forward in the world and make some money to live.
I think it was really important when you guys mentioned a self-awareness and a behavioral analysis. I think it's super important, and I can only speak from my own experience here, that I needed to first find out what time of the day am I at my best, and place those tasks that I know are going to challenge me a little bit more in that time frame of the day that I work at my peak. So I know that towards the end of the day, I seem to get tired. I'm a little less creative. I may be a little bit more forgetful towards the end of the day. So if I have a big meeting or something that's really important to me, or something that's going to take a lot more of my energy and creativity, I know I need to schedule that for myself in the earlier part of the day, in the morning, where I am at my peak. And that would be my 2 cents for that, for anybody that's listening to that. How to plan your day. Like, look at yourself first, like you said before.
Who is that you're talking about right now? I didn't catch your name.
My name is Gina Lalo.
Oh, Gina.
Gina's on the board of the foundation, of the Time to Play Foundation, and she's a brilliant business person for many years, and a huge advocate for people in our business community. And I think that really is something that we could consider. What she's speaking of. It makes a lot of sense. If you're not a morning person and you schedule the most important business meeting you ever have first thing in the morning, you might not, make it the best it could be. So that's really a very smart thing to do. And John, I loved the before you go to bed, I know a lot of people sit and reflect on their day. I think that probably would help you sleep, instead of you laying down and, sitting there thinking of 10 billion things that you need to do. If you did have a pen and a paper and you put a little list together of the stuff, so it's not in your brain sitting there thinking and going over it and go, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to do this. But you've already taken care of that. And now you could settle down. I think that that's really very smart advice.
Everything needs to be written.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jerry.
Because writing crystallizes thought motivates action, and a short pencil is better than a long memory. So that.
That's cute. When did you come up with that one?
Actually, I don't take credit for that. That credit belongs to the person whose programs I use.
I love that. Say that again.
A short pencil is better than a long memory.
Oh, that's so clever. How clever?
Because by writing something down, you don't need to remember. And we all have too much that goes on in our heads at any point in time, because we have busy lives, we have a lot of responsibilities, a lot of commitments in many different areas. But once something is written down, it doesn't go away. You don't forget it, and it doesn't leave you. Therefore, it can be done. Now, the point John made a few minutes ago about the new person in business being overwhelmed is certainly a factor, and one of the suggestions that we can make to anybody who's subsequently listens to this call is that the Long Island Advancement of Small Business has a new entrepreneur group that meets on the third Wednesday evening of each month from 6 to 8 p.m. at Adelphi's campus in Hauppauge on Long Island. And certainly anybody is welcome to attend that meeting as long as they are pre-registered and as long as they qualify as a new entrepreneur or somebody who is in business or about to be in business. They're welcome to attend that meeting. They can go to the website for the Long Island Advancement to Small Business, and they can indicate on there that they'd like to attend that meeting. Obtaining help and mentoring is one of the key ingredients, because one of the things that I learned later in life that I would have liked to was that asking for help is a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness. So anybody that is new in business, first of all, they need to start off with a business plan so that they know what direction they need to take. Then from there, they can write goals in each one of the areas in which they want to address. Obviously, sales being one of them. We spoke about that previously in our 2 weeks ago, that the entrepreneur is the salesperson first. But beyond that, the other goals for the business need to be written, and plans of action need to be developed in order to reach each goal, because achieving success in any endeavor is not easy. It's not simple. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a process. It requires patience. It requires persistence. It requires perseverance. It requires being proactive, which is one of the reasons why Time to Play is scheduled these half-hour weekly podcasts, so that anybody who is intending to become successful, they want to avail themselves of as much knowledge and much experience from others who have been there and done that and learn from that, because you can't teach experience, but you certainly can learn from the experience of others. With that said, let me throw the conversation back open for some comments and some additional suggestions and advice from the knowledgeable people who are on this podcast.
Murray, are you on the phone? Murray? Is Murray here?
No, he didn't join us today.
No, Murray is not on
today. He can talk about what's fallen into. Murray's philosophy right now is you have to be an entrepreneur in order to succeed today. You really have to act like an entrepreneur in order to get ahead. I find that when I'm teaching these kids out at Stony Brook, I have the same problem out there with them. They're so involved with technology, and they think that they're going to get a job by putting their resume out on the internet, and that's about it. They don't know how to talk to people. They don't know how to communicate. It's very hard to hold a conversation with them because they hide behind their computer and their cell phone most of the time, and they don't really know how to communicate well. And I'm just saying those are some of the problems that even older people have today, because they're trying to catch up with the technology, and they've never been in a situation where they had to go for a job again or talk to a customer. They've always been in the background, and that's a problem, major problem.
I agree.
Technology is great, John, but technology is only good for keeping track of what you have personally stored, and it will certainly organize it in many areas, in many aspects, and make it easier to use. But you're absolutely correct. People skills are certainly number one in terms of what is necessary for business success. And hiding behind
Sorry,
go ahead,
Terry. Sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
wanted to go back to just something that you said before we do lose it completely. But you said ask for help. And you said that, asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. And again, I said this before everybody was all, logged in this morning on the podcast. But the reason that we're doing this is because if we know that most businesses fail in their first 3 years of business, and we just continue to let it, and we also know that there's not enough education, like John is saying. Well, the people who are graduating from the colleges just expect to go and get a job, whatever. But we're not preparing people to be business people. We're not preparing people to be owners. We're not preparing people to know how, to even formulate things. And yes, Google is a wonderful world these days, but we need to really consult the people who have been there, done that. What are the things that they've learned along the way? And the people who are on this, this podcast, this internet radio event, have significant knowledge, many years of experience in all aspects of business ownership and sales, strategic planning. And there are organizations in every community that do have opportunities for people to learn business skills, so that this is something to consider as a person who's potentially a business, new business to go into as a new business owner, or somebody that's started out and is kind of, just trying to figure out how to get from here to there. Do ask for help and do look for people that you can ask questions. Believe it or not, this is how even John and I know each other. If you say to somebody, hey, I know you're a business owner for a really long time. I'd like to sit down and have a cup of coffee. What do you guys think? Do you think people would do that? Do you think people would say, yeah, that would be a great thing? I'll be more than happy to give you my opinions. Or do you think that people would be interested in working with somebody like that?
I think there are many people who would readily do that, Doreen, myself being one of them, John being another one, and I'm sure without knowing positively Jim being a third, that are on this call. Murray Kleiner is also somebody who would likely provide his time to offer knowledge and expertise and experience. So yes, it's a matter of asking. And even in regards to asking, we come back to the issue of perseverance, because you may ask a person and they may say, no, I'm sorry, I'd like to help you, but I'm too busy, or I don't have time to do it at this point. That only means that you just need to ask them again and again, and or find other people that you can ask again and again and again. On average, I'm told that it takes 6 exposures before we accept a new idea, and that is true in regards to anything. And certainly when somebody's asking for help, that would be a new idea to the person that they are proposing it to.
I want to make a point.
You spoke before regarding the business plan, and everybody talks about a business plan. You talk to some of the people that I've talked to that are fresh in the business arena. What do you want? The next question is, what do you want me to put down in a business plan? And you say to them something along the lines of, how do you go about going to generate opportunities for yourself to run your business? And they look at you, well, I got to go out and talk to people. Well, how are you going to do that? Okay, the basics are what's missing in a lot of these things, and I won't even call it a business plan. I would start off with plan your day, and plan your week, and plan your month, and all of a sudden you'll have enough information in those planning sessions of yourself that you realize that you can develop yourself into a plan that's worthwhile. First of all, nobody talks right now. Large companies don't talk about business plans anymore because they are archaic. Okay, everybody's talking about. I had dealt with customers in the Fortune 500 that are talking about 30, 60, and 90-day trend analysis. Okay, that's the new buzzword out there, trend analysis. Like Google right now has at least 100 people in their marketing department doing trend analysis. They try something new, and if it doesn't happen in 30 days, they scrap it and go on to something else. Try to put a trade show together in 30 days. Tell me about it. Okay?
Wow. Mm.
I just want to interject, because I know, John, you had said earlier that, you experience with some of the students where they just don't learn certain types of skills that are necessary to succeed. It's not quite, it may not seem that it's part of the planning part, but it is. And I will tell you that a lot of schools, I know Delphi does this quite a bit, which we stress the value of experiential learning. which is, I guess in the past used to be called on-the-job training, so to speak, but now we call it internships and things of that sort. But the thing about experiential learning and internships and all that is that the individual gets a chance to be exposed to issues that we can't put college classes for. For example, networking, developing people skills, utilizing technology in the workplace. When is it too much? When is it too little? Time management skills. We can't keep adding courses in these types of areas to already a 4-year degree. You'll never get out of college. However, you could probably learn with the right people, because you're talking about the different type of people who spend their time with students. That's where they see, wow, I never learned about that in my management class. In fact, I would say probably 80% of what you actually have to utilize in terms of skills in management, you do not get out of a management class in a college setting. You probably learn more from the people who are actually doing it, and you learn how to manage their time, how to manage their day, and then we're talking about planning not from only a daily perspective, how to plan your day, but then how to develop the short-term goals and the long-term goals, how to do the business plan. Planning is a psychological mindset. It has to be, what am I going to do today versus what do I want to accomplish within the next 6 months? Where do I want to be in 10 years? And I know, Jerry, you've spoken quite a bit about the idea of short-term goals and long-term goals and how that's so key to planning. So even your short-term goal has to start with, what do I want to accomplish this morning? And this should also include, what do I want to do in a nearer short term, like 2 to 3 weeks or so, and then where do I want to be in 10 years? And most people I find, entrepreneurs, they don't have that. So we can talk about what do we do how to get the most out of your day, but they also have to be looking at the bigger picture, where do I want to be in the near future? And if they don't do that level of planning, they're done.
You're absolutely right. What we want to do is you want to start with the end in mind. You want to start off with where you want to be. You want to bring it back to today, and then determine step by step how you're going to get there. This certainly all relates to self-management, because it relates to the ability to sit down and spend time thinking and writing down what you're thinking and determining where you want to go. And you mentioned daily goals or to-do list or daily goals, but it's a lot more effective when the to-do list is based on the longer range as to what needs to be done to get you where you want to go in 6 months. What do I have to do in month 1 and month 2, month 3, and so on? And then within the framework of month 1, what is necessary in week 1 and week 2 and week 3 and 4, and then break it down into day-by-days. Now, this certainly sounds like an exercise that is not simple, which is true. It's certainly not simple. It's not easy. It requires planning. It requires the ability to sit down and just spend time detailing what and how you're going to accomplish what you were looking to achieve.
I think you're at the point now in this conversation where we've talked about how to explore what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong, when's your best time, doing that self-analysis. Then you talked about the planning part, and I think where we're getting to now is how you're going to implement that plan. And, that's in identifying what kind of tools are going to be needed to get you. And, again, when I say plan, it could be today's plan, or it could be the plan for the month, or it could be the plan for the year. But what tools do I need? What resources do I need? What sort of data or information or supplies do I need? Do I need any assistance? Do I need to consider contracting out for some sort of help? Do I need to hire somebody? So, and again, I think, John, to your point way earlier on, you hit a new business owner with all these things in one shot, they get completely overwhelmed. So it's the job of us as advisors to try to be able to tell the person, simplify this. Where are you going? And then think about what are you going to need in order to achieve those goals. Your goals for today and your goals for this week. What are you going to need? And write them down, and then try to figure out what's the best way to get those, to get those resources that you're going to need to achieve those goals. And then ultimately you're going to have to set yourself a sort of a deadline. All right, so I set myself a goal. I said that this project has to be done. I'm giving myself 2 days to do it, and then you got to stop at a certain point and say, where am I at? You got to kind of assess. Where am I going here? Am I making progress? Am I way behind or not? Sometimes we set up a plan. You don't set a deadline. You don't set an end date. And say, this is what I need to get done. All right, when does it need to be get done? Well, whenever I'm done with it. Well, that's not acceptable. If you were working for a major corporation, your supervisor would come and say, listen, I wanted this yesterday. Why are you waiting so long? When you're an entrepreneur, you're the supervisor. Who's checking on you to make sure that this thing, whatever it is, got done in the appropriate amount of time?
That's why asking for help and asking for support becomes so paramount and so essential, because it's such a difficult process, and that's one of the reasons why, as Doreen started off the call, and we all know, most small businesses fail, and they don't last 3 years. They fail a lot sooner than that.
Now, I've even recommended to people that are trying to manage their task on a daily basis to use an alarm clock, whether it be on their iPhone. I mean, we talked about this at the LIASB meeting as well, too, and a couple of people have talked to me and said that they tried it and it worked, which is literally, okay, I have to get this particular task done. I'm giving myself 2 hours to do it. I'm starting at 10, and at 12 o'clock, that's it, and I got to move on to something else. Hopefully I'll be done by it. If I'm not, I do have to move on to the other thing that I have to do this afternoon. And you set the alarm clock, and the thing goes off 2 hours later, and that's it. You just, you ran out of your 2 hours, and then you can, at least it helps you with that analysis of how you're spending your time. I gave myself 2 hours. Here I did. I spent the 2 hours doing it, and I'm not even close to finishing. So obviously I'm not giving myself enough time for this particular task. Or you look back and say, obviously I'm not using my time wisely. I mean, I was supposed to spend these last 2 hours doing this project, but what I did was I actually answered 7 phone calls while I was in the middle of this project. So you start learning, and that's why you start learning from your mistakes. You start learning from what you're actually doing.
Yes, well, that's certainly an excellent suggestion, Jim, because what we need to do, we always need to give ourselves a time frame, because when we give ourselves a deadline, we act on the goal, and the goal acts on us. We know what the deadline is, and physiologically changes take place in our bodies, so that typically if we gave ourselves 2 hours to accomplish whatever goal we were working on, typically towards the end of that time, we would be inspired, we'd be motivated, and we would often be able to accomplish it within that time frame. So you're absolutely correct in that regard. Are there any other thoughts? Because we need to be wrapping up today's call shortly.
Just a little insight from what I've found that works for me. As somebody that is out in the field more than I'm at my desk, I need to actually schedule in my office time, what I call my office time. And when I schedule in my office time, I put down all my priority things that are must-dos, that have to get done that particular day. And then if an idea or something creative comes to mind, and where maybe it's something I want to do a little bit more futuristically, I have a little notebook and where I write down those types of things that are like what I consider my go-back ideas. So that I set aside usually maybe like an hour, 2 hours a month, in which I go back to my little book and I say, okay, what are my go-back ideas? What were some of the things I was thinking about trying to get done this month that I didn't actually have time to? And I set aside that time to look at those things. And sometimes they may be things like, well, all right, maybe I've changed my mind. Maybe that's not so important to me right now. But I will pick one of those things and work on it for, that said hour, 2 hours. And, of course, they're not things that are emergent that need to get done immediately, but they're more long-term issues that, but I don't want to forget about doing them. So that's what has helped me actually gain a momentum in adding that compound effect to things.
Well, just to simplify that, Gina, what you're saying is that we don't find time, we schedule it, and that certainly is extremely true.
And
Doreen,
to reiterate, what she's also saying is write it down, just like what Jerry said, just what John said. This is how you're going to get it done, because you're going to forget. And this way, one of the things that I've learned too, and Jerry knows I'm sloppy, and Gina knows, oh my gosh, I have papers. My papers have papers. I think when I leave my office, I come back that they, have more babies of papers. There's just so many papers. But having a notebook that's bound is the key too, because this way you're not looking for that one piece of paper that is in the pile of the paper. So just things to just keep in mind. And John, I definitely am going to actually try what you're saying and starting my list that night before like that, before I go to bed. And I think that'll, like I said, even take some pressure off of things to do, because you think sometimes about the next day. So I appreciate all you guys. So smart. So go ahead, Joe.
Well, I want to thank everybody for their participation today. Next week in the same noon to 12:30 thereabouts time slot, we're going to be talking about managing your money. We're talking about knowing when to spend money and when not to spend it, and certainly financial side of any new enterprise is critical, because regardless of the circumstances or situation, that is a limited resource, as time is a limited resource. So we're going to be touching on that next week. And once again, Time to Play is trying to provide the opportunity for people to succeed in business. We're trying to offer them suggestions. We're trying to offer them knowledge. We're trying to offer them experience and advice. And that's what these podcasts are about. So we encourage you to ask your friends to come on. They can listen to this at any point in time. They do not have to schedule their time, so that they're available on noon to 12:30 on Tuesday when we conduct the podcast. They can be listened to subsequently, and we encourage you to use resources like the LIASB, like the New Entrepreneur Group, as well as the local universities like Adelphi.
If there is any topics that people do want to hear about or are perplexing to them as a person in business or wanting to start a business, there's, the whole goal is for us to do stuff that'll help others. And if you want to contact us, you can dial the office phone number at the Time to Play Foundation. It's 631-331-2675. We always do have somebody answering the phone here, so please never hesitate to reach out to us, because we're here for our people. That is the premise behind this whole thing, is people helping people, and collaboration equals success. So the Time to Play Foundation is located at timetoplay.com. It's the easy website. We have the enjoylifeproject.org. Somebody the other day says, "Oh, you don't have a .org." Well, Fisher Price owns timetoplay.org, and we couldn't buy that, so we bought .com. It's better than nothing. So if you have anything to go, please go on timetoplay.com. There's tons of resources, articles. We're adding every day, and we're honored to be there to maybe plant one little seed of information that'll help you have a better life. Anything else anybody wants to say? I rambled. Sorry.
Thank everybody for participating this afternoon, and hopefully there will be many people who will take advantage of the information that we put onto the podcast.
Nice job, both of you guys. Nice job.
Thank you so much, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great day and a good week.
You too.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
So long.